It's Saturday afternoon. Your sister has asked whether you'll come over for dinner, and you're standing in the hallway with a paint roller in one hand, masking tape stuck to your sleeve, and three unopened tins lined beneath the stairs because the walls suddenly feel impossible to leave alone. You look at the message, turn the phone face down, and start painting. Other people call it energy, discipline, or one of those harmless Gen X habits, always fixing, repainting, clearing the shed, replacing a shelf that was perfectly fine, and insisting you simply prefer useful work to sitting around talking. This isn't productivity, it's loneliness kept in motion. You learned this rhythm years ago when a front door key hung from a shoelace inside your school jumper, the TV came on before any adult came home, and an empty kitchen could be made less quiet by opening cupboards, making toast, and finding something practical to do. Even boredom became a problem you were expected to solve alone. There wasn't a group chat asking whether you got home safely, no parent tracking your journey, and often no grown-up available for the small worries that arrived between school and dinner. So you heated food, solved problems, checked the lock twice, handled the scraped knee yourself, and learned not to make a fuss when the afternoon stretched longer than expected. The lesson wasn't simply that you were capable, it was that needing company, comfort, or reassurance could feel embarrassing because the safest person to depend on was usually the person already standing in your shoes. So when the house felt too quiet, your hands became busy. You folded clothes that didn't need folding, picked at loose wallpaper, reorganized a drawer, or walked from room to room carrying a screwdriver while your face kept the flat, competent look that told everyone there was nothing to worry about. Movement covered the pause before anyone could ask whether you wanted company. That old training still speaks through your adult routines. I can't come round. I've got too much to get done sounds responsible, but underneath it may mean, I don't know how to arrive with nothing to offer. Sit in someone else's room and risk discovering that I feel awkward, unnecessary, or more alone than I've admitted. A full schedule lets you decline without revealing what the invitation has stirred up. Then there's the house won't sort itself out. That can sound like common sense while quietly shifting every uncomfortable feeling into a job with tools, measurements, and a visible result because a cracked cupboard door is easier to face than a quiet evening with no one calling. The repair also gives you an answer when someone asks how you spent the weekend. And I just like keeping busy can mean, please don't ask what happens when I stop. You begin hearing the feeling underneath the schedule. After enough years, the pattern becomes difficult to miss because the projects never truly finish. One room gets painted, then another looks tired. The fence gets repaired, then the garage needs sorting. The work keeps moving because the real problem was never the wall, the hinge, or the overflowing cupboard. Each completed task gives brief calm. Then the silence finds a new object to disguise itself as, and the clearest sign isn't how much you do. It's how uneasy you become when there is finally nothing left that urgently needs doing. Here's the uncomfortable part. Your busyness may also protect the very loneliness you want to escape. You may have trained relatives to stop inviting you by answering every offer with a list of jobs, brushing off concern with "I'm fine," and making independence look so complete that people began believing you genuinely preferred being left alone. You repaint the spare room instead of visiting. Spend Sunday repairing a gate nobody complained about. Refuse your son's offer to help because you can do it faster. Then feel forgotten when the family photographs appear and you're not in them. Some of this began because people failed to notice what you needed, and some of it continues because staying useful gives you control. Work can't reject you. A finished shelf proves you mattered that day, and refusing help prevents anyone from seeing how much you might want them to stay. The strategy protects you from disappointment, but it also hides the door that others would need to enter. Are you genuinely choosing these projects, or are the projects choosing what you never have to feel? Probably both. Under the irritation, the restless energy, and the sharp refusal when someone offers a hand, the deeper feeling is often relief. A task gives the day edges. A starting point, a list, a finish you can recognize. It tells you where to stand and what to do with your hands. It protects you from the loose, exposed feeling of having time but nobody to share it with. And while you're the one fixing what everyone else ignores, nobody can question your place, your usefulness, or whether you belong in the room. The visible mood may look like impatience, but underneath it sits the relief of not having to name the need that the work has temporarily silenced. It also lets you feel productive instead of exposed because progress can be photographed, measured, and praised while loneliness has no finished edge. That relief appears in ordinary moments. You can say you're too busy instead of saying you miss people. You can spend 3 hours choosing paint because comparing shades feels safer than admitting Sunday feels long. You can start another repair just as the house becomes still, leave the radio talking in the next room, or answer a relative's invitation with photographs of the work you've completed. You can reject help before gratitude turns into dependence, then tell yourself the other person probably didn't mean the offer anyway. And you can fall into bed physically exhausted, pleased with what you achieved, and tired enough that the dark room doesn't have time to ask whether anyone really knows how you're doing. Even the ache in your shoulders can feel easier to explain than the ache behind the routine. You haven't stopped caring about people? But caring isn't the same as making yourself permanently unavailable behind a wall of jobs. A real hobby gives something back. Pleasure while you're doing it, curiosity about learning more, pride that doesn't depend on praise, and a story you want to share afterward. Avoidance feels different. It keeps demanding the next task, makes interruption feel like intrusion, and leaves you strangely flat when the work is finished. It turns a visit into lost time, help into a threat, and rest into something you have to earn. The cost isn't the decorating or repairing itself. It's how often the activity prevents anyone, including you, from seeing what the activity is covering. Busyness can become a locked door with a toolbox hanging on it. You didn't become independent enough to need nobody. You became skilled at hiding the moments when you do. So you're back in the hallway with the paint roller, the open message, and the dinner invitation waiting on the dark screen. The wall still needs another coat, and the strip near the skirting board will bother you if you leave it. But now you can see the choice more clearly. You can finish the edge that nobody else will notice, clean every brush, and send another apology about being busy. Or you can close the tin, wash the white marks from your hands, change your shirt, and arrive without bringing a ladder, a repair, or a useful roll to hide inside. The room you enter may feel awkward at first, but awkwardness isn't proof that you don't belong there. The hallway stays quiet, while the paint begins drying in pale strips, and for once the unfinished section is allowed to remain visible. If you leave, someone else may have to set the table, carry the difficult conversation, or notice that you've been absent more often than they realized. They may not respond perfectly. They may tease you for finally appearing, ask why you've been distant, or continue talking as though nothing important has happened. And you may have to sit there without fixing anything, long enough to feel the urge to escape, and long enough for another person to discover that your independence has always contained a wish to be included. The silence no longer belongs only to you. The room has to meet you halfway. So are you keeping your life full, or keeping loneliness hidden?